Welcome back, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSports, where your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen. It's Tuesday, so Andy's over at BetSports Golf talking about the playoffs. That's right, folks. There's golf playoffs. It's news to me too, kind of. But back from a Scottish sojourn, if you will. How was the other side of the Atlantic? Did you play some golf? Break it down for us.
I love golf more than a lot of things, and just it's my favorite activity, favorite pastime. Even I would say I played maybe a little bit too much golf. We played 9 straight days, walking all the courses, but it was absolutely a blast. I mean, it's the home of golf and all that. So saw a lot of great courses, played some fun golf. Great trip with a lot of good family and friends, but. They say going over the UK for the food is not the reason you go over there. And it's not like we were in, London or Edinburgh for very long. So it's not like we were going to these big restaurants. When you go over there and you're just eating at, golf clubhouses and, late night pizza, the food over there is really not much to write home about. I'm gonna tell you that from experience. It's not great.
The shepherd's pie theirs. I mean, there should be a lot of good
Yeah, they got like
random
the
stuff.
steak, like steak pies and stuff like that. I pretty much just ate fish and chips for about a week straight. Those
You
were
do a lot worse.
usually pretty good, but fried fish and fries for a week, probably not the best. But I guess I burned all that off walking, a few miles a day on the golf course, probably.
What was your favorite course?
Oh, St. Andrews is in. It's just the old course is just kind of it's in a league of its own. Like it was not the best golf course you played, but like they still had the open grandstands and stuff up, so you still
That's
kind of
cool.
felt like you were in a little bit of an arena, like on 1 and 18, how they go back and forth. So that was really cool. That was the best experience.
Do you still have to
But
hit it over the hotel on 18
I did 17. Yeah, I
or
remember I
17?
was
Sorry,
lining up.
okay.
I was talking to the caddy, and I was like kind of teeing up where the road kind of bends, and I was like, "Hey, is that my line?" And he's like, "Oh no, you need to go over the restaurant." And I was like, "I do." I was a little bit hesitant, but hit a very good drive on 17. Was very happy with myself, so I was
I
very
trust
very
those
proud there.
caddies.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Those caddies have been out there forever. They
Lean
know
on your
exactly where to go.
loopers.
It's off the tee. It's you don't really know where to go, and then you say like, "Hey, like, what's my line here?" He's like, "That. Just hit it at that, and you'll be fine." And 10 times out of 10, they're right.
It's their job. It's a wonderful thing. Well, I'm glad you had fun. Let's keep you in your comfort zone here. Baseball, it's still happening now. The White Sox, from what I understand, are starting to get a little bit friskier. You were pretty despondent last time we saw you.
They're still kind of they're in the division race because the division still just kind of sucks. And they'll probably be in the division race the rest of the season because the division's just going to kind of suck. But as you saw with Dan's Braves last year, obviously the Braves made some deadline acquisitions that worked out, but they won the World Series at 83 and 79. So really all it takes is getting in there, and the White Sox still do have a ton of talent, but overall it's still a massively underachieving team. And at some point, we're 100 plus games into the year. If you keep thinking things are going to change when they haven't changed as far into the season, um, you might be going crazy a little bit, but all you got to do is get there. And if you get hot, you get hot. So hopefully that might be the case.
I could dig it. Well, let's get into it. What do we got? I'm looking at some props here. We're going to bet the Mets. Oh,
We're gonna met. Oh, we're I if I don't know. I know we're getting into some World Series odds. I cannot wait to see the World Series odds because I think I'm going to pound the Mets there. I love the New York Mets. They're sorry, Dan. They just took 4 out of 5 at home against the Braves and absolutely picked up a ton of momentum there and some ground in the division. They're playing really good baseball, and you thought maybe last night at home against an awful Reds team, it might be a little bit of a letdown spot. It was not a letdown spot. They won 5-1 and cruised. They're playing as good a baseball as anybody in the majors right now. They're -2. They are the run line. This is an alt run line, so if you go to FanDuel, the run line's still going to say -1.5, but it's like -150 or something like that. There's just absolutely no value. -2.5, you're still getting some plus money against the Reds. And Carlos Carrasco's thrown for the Mets. He's the last 6 starts, he's allowed just 6 earned runs, 33-10 strikeout to walk ratio. So he's been absolutely lights out. Basically since the beginning of July, along with most of this Mets pitching staff. Mike Minor's throwing for the Reds. He's been okay. He's a little bit better his last 2 starts, but he's still got an ERA in the low sixes, whip in the mid 150s. So it's at the plus money here at home. I have no problem taking the Mets at winning by 3 or more. I think that's some good value. I think that's a good risk to take. And then Alek Manoah, the over 5.5 strikeouts against Baltimore at plus 122. Baltimore, I believe, strikes out Top there. I know they're for sure they're in the top 10 in majors in the majors as a team strikeout leaders. I think it might be eighth or something like that, if not a little bit higher. So they strike out a lot. Manoah's not the biggest strikeout pitcher, but he's hovering around. If you look at his game logs, he's hovering around, 5, 4, 6 strikeouts per game. And if you got him going up against a team that strikes out a lot, I have no problem with it. With a pitcher with as good of stuff as Manoah has, getting that over 5.5 and the plus 122 value, I really like. So those are my plays. As usual, there's a couple pluses on there. I don't usually like to throw up a bunch of minuses because what fun is that? So Alek Manoah over the 5.5 plus 122, and the Mets. Let's just keep riding the Mets.
You're right, Clint. This is baseball, not football. But if you go back and look, I think 8 of the last 9 wins here for the Mets, they cover that 2.5. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are in that, but a lot of sharp baseball bettors I know don't have a problem laying spreads, and if they do, try to sell out that extra game or so. So
Yeah, especially too when the Mets are really good. The Reds are really bad. Like you're talking about a best team in baseball versus one of the worst. You're also looking at a pitching matchup where the pitching matchup is incredibly lopsided. It's not like you have the Reds, when they had Luis Castillo throwing for them, and it's not like they had an absolute ace on the mound. They got a guy who's struggled mightily this year, going up against a pitcher who's pitching as well as he has all season, and as well as close to as well as just about anybody in the majors. I'm not going to say as well as anybody, but he's been throwing really well too. So minus the 2.5 at that plus money. I mean, it's just one more run. It's one more run. It's a really good team against a really bad team. I like taking on the one more run if you're going to give me some plus money value on it. If you want to don't just do the minus 1.5 at the minus money. That's probably the smarter bet, and the odds would suggest it is.
I can dig it. Now let's get into some World Series odds. I know Andy and I touched on these quickly, but we're not nearly equipped enough to talk about, kind of baseball as a whole here. And I just really have one question, Matt. How much should I be betting on my Philadelphia Phillies now that we're one game ahead of the San Diego Sotos in the wild card?
You can if you want. I mean, I guess
Probably
the,
a
the
bad
bonus
idea.
for them is in a wild card matchup. They're going to have Zach Wheeler throwing, it provided that it times up. But you can also time that up if they know they're going to be in a wild card matchup. They can kind of play the matchups later on in the year to make sure he throws that. So you're going to have a pretty good chance in that game. But then going forward, that the NL is very, very deep, and I love the Mets here at the plus 500. The Dodgers are playing really, really, really good baseball, and they're the best team in baseball right now. But I know the value isn't unreal at plus 500, but man, any series that you can start, Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, 1-2. I mean, good luck. Good luck. I mean, you're lucky to steal one of that. You're almost guaranteeing yourself a 1-1 series split if you're the Mets, no matter what. And then they still have some pretty great pitching depth behind that. They have the best closer in baseball right now. Cardinals Devil Magic, Dan says at plus 3,500. I don't hate that because weird things seem to happen when they're in the playoffs. They just they're that team that's just always kind of hanging around, always there. I still have my NL Central future on them. I believe I gave that out at the beginning of the year, and I have my Cardinals NL Championship future that I gave out at the beginning of the year. Still holding on to that. Might actually look to see what the odds are to cash that one out, what the payout is to cash out in FanDuel for the NL, because I don't think they're going to win the NL. But at plus 3,500, there's some value there. Actually, on both NL Central teams, because with the Brewers pitching similar to the Mets, you got Woodruff, you got Burns. Those are 2 top 5 Cy Young caliber guys. That's going to be that's a really tough pitching matchup for anybody to go up against. I have to mention my White Sox at plus 4,500. I'm contractually obligated by myself to bring them up. I think there actually is some value there because, like we
No.
talked about with Dan's Braves, who finished 83 and 79 last year. I hate to keep bringing this up and kind of keep saying there's a chance, but like they were 83 and 79 last year. They're 4 games above 500. They won a bad division. The White Sox could do that, and once you get in the AL, I mean, the Yankees the Sox have had pretty decent success against the top of the AL this year. They played the Yankees well. They played the Astros pretty close. I don't think they match up terribly well against them, but they do have Dylan Cease, who's starting just about any series, and he's probably the best pitcher in the American League right now. Him and Justin Verlander are kind of jostling for that position. They do have some talent behind them. So plus 4,500, there's definitely some value there because that's a team that is as talented as anybody in the AL and could get hot, but they just haven't really strung it together. But my 2 favorite bets on that board right now, probably the Mets at the plus 500, and I don't even know who my say. I like the Mets at plus 500.
I can dig it. I mean, it's like you said, a lot of this comes down to pitching, and the Mets are in good shape. It's That DeGrom guy, that's all I hear about on the Twitter.
He's, Mets fans are panicking because we didn't look good in the rehab start. Rehab's not looking good in a rehab start is similar to not looking good in spring training. It's these guys just kind of figuring their stuff out, working on some things, and then he starts against the Braves, retires his first 17 hitters. I think takes like a perfect game into the sixth. Like he's Jacob deGrom, he's gonna be just fine. And when you have deGrom and you have Scherzer as your 1-2, I mean, that's
Could do a lot
I
worse.
don't see people. It's really hard to beat those guys. You better hope you get to the bullpen tied 0-0 or 1-1.
I can dig it. All right. We got you all settled here. We got a lot of baseball. Now it's time for my comfort zone. Tennis
I want to hear some
continues.
tennis. I haven't heard tennis picks in a long time. You know what? Really should have been paying more attention when I was over in Europe because there were probably some matches starting in like my prime time or my time where I'm actually not having to set an alarm at 5 a.m. or stay up super late. So that's on me. I messed that up, but also I don't know that I could have legally placed wagers on FanDuel in Europe. So that's also a
A lot of
who knows.
hurdles to jump through, but it's
Yeah.
good. You're back. Quite a bit of stuff today. Some underway already, but we'll start just north of the border in Toronto. A couple bets we made yesterday, but we'll just touch on them again quickly. Emiratu Kano, this number's actually starting to move against us. It looks like there's some late steam here on Georgie. Raducanu gave right yesterday at minus 125. I'm looking at minus 120 right now. So curious to see how that goes. I just still love the matchup. She's the much steadier player than Georgie. I think has overall been playing better tennis these last couple of weeks and have her almost a minus 160 favorite here. So anything minus 125 or better looks good. Christina Buxa goes against Shuai Zhang. Again, Zhang, somebody who generally beats up on lower competition and does well, during the grass season on faster courts. Not really what we have here at all. And Buxa is starting to push into the higher levels of the WTA. Now, I don't know if she'll be challenging to win tournaments, but should be winning multiple matches, especially at some of these events here. Comes through qualifying in great form. Was able to get her yesterday at plus 145. I bet if you poke around, that's still out there, seeing some plus 140s, plus 135. So a little bit of momentum our way on that one. And then a first set over instead of the full match over here. Kudermetova, Tomljanovic. The total match is set at 21.5. And I don't think books necessarily do the best job that they can in terms of splitting this up in between two sets. They generally take that total, we'll look at 9.5 and sort of juice it accordingly, where I look at this match here, and if it does go over, it's going to be with a very long first set. Both of these women play very long sets. I think we'll see a 7-5, maybe even a 7-6. So if you've got some first set alt totals, which is in very, very few places, looks like an over 10.5 too. But I think we'll see a long set here and probably a quick second. So curious to see what the live lines look there. And those are all today. Tomorrow, Leylah Fernandez. This is one of the earlier lines for tomorrow, playing Beatriz Haddad Maya. BHM, ripping through the early part of the season. But if you go back and look, has struggled against better talent. Fernandez won the U.S. Open last year. Finished second in the U.S. Open last year. And not that, she's the exact same player she was at that point, but just a much higher caliber of player than Haddad Maya has been playing over these last few games. So happy to lay the spread here. Feel free to play the money line, minus 135, minus 140 or better. Looks good to me. And that'll be early tomorrow. And then in the Challenger event, or 125K, depending on how your book lists it here, in Concord. We'll start with a match this afternoon. We gave this one out yesterday. I'm sorry. Where's Wang Zhiyu? Did she start already? Sorry, I'm going to look for that. We'll talk about Towson here real quickly. We talked about her yesterday. Goes up against Katie Bolter. Really like this spot for Towson. I think we're getting some value here off of just a clunky loss in her match last week, and the fact that Katie Bolter has just been taking money like crazy since grass season. And she's not playing Karolina Pliskova, who she's kind of beaten up on here in this tournament a little bit. Is playing against Towson again, who I just noticed what happened with the long match. But Towson gave that out yesterday. Moving against us a little bit, honestly, you get a better number here, but still like her at minus 120, have her as close to a minus 155 favorite. Wang Zhiyu, the match is canceled, so that's why I couldn't find it on the list here when I was looking through the odds. So you can skip that one. And then Bonaventure, this will be tomorrow. Yazeline Bonaventure, the Belgian, if you will, plus 190 to plus 200, you should see out there just about everywhere, and plus 4 games. Anything minus 15, even minus 120 or better looks good there. Goes up against Taylor Townsend. Townsend coming off about a year and a half break after having had her first child. Congratulations, but generally is not the best for your conditioning in terms of tennis. Played a little bit last week, looked pretty fatigued towards the end of the week. And either way, I have Bonaventure a much closer line we're seeing here. So a bunch of stuff for today in Toronto, just one match in Concord, and a few early tomorrow morning.
I just love that in Toronto you gave out an alt line, and I'm giving out alt lines in baseball. I feel like between the two of us, there's always at least one alt line a show. We love alt lines here. We love the value.
If you like the main line, you probably like the alt line.
Yeah, if you like the main line, just give up a little bit more, take the alt line, and take the value. It's a lot more fun that way.
Now, college football, this is another thing that I'm a little out on, but I do like the Big Ten. I'm a Big Ten guy, grew up in Penn State country, still have a Joe Paterno bobblehead doll, though he sits in the corner. It's another story for another day. But we've got a Big Ten team here that you like, and I guess it's been a while since maybe I've caught up. I didn't know Purdue was any good.
Purdue has a very, very interesting offense coming back this year. They got Aiden O'Connell, who's been their quarterback last year. He led a top 5 offense. Their passing offense was elite and should be elite again this year. They've been able to produce some pretty good wide receiver talent too. Rondale Moore was a couple of years ago. He's in the pros now. He was a 5-star recruit. He left. David Bell kind of picked up the slack. He had a really good year last year. He's in the NFL. Not really sure who that guy is this year that's going to replace, but there's some options there. There's some talent. There's some guys that need to rise, but they're bringing back a lot of talent offensively. Bringing back the running back. Keep forgetting his name. King Doru, I believe his name is. I can't believe I just blanked on that. Aiden O'Connell's coming back quarterback though. That's the big one is Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. I mean, I feel like I've mentioned the words dark horse Heisman candidate for a few quarterbacks we've talked about, whether it was Cam Rising with Utah or Will Rogers with Mississippi State. But Aiden O'Connell is going to put up numbers like that this year in that offense. And they really just need a little bit of help running the ball. If they can just get like they got nothing running the football last year. If they get a little bit of help there, they got the running back coming back. Got some talent on the offensive line coming back this year. Their defense returns 8 starters. It was a solid defense last year. Nothing, it was kind of middling. I think it was like 45th ranked defense in college football. If they can just kind of improve on that slightly, the offense is going to put up a ton of points. And if the defense can kind of just hold their ground, if they can get some guys, some pass catchers to kind of step up and take that, I'm not saying to be Rondale Moore or David Bell, but kind of just be consistent presences. Tyrone Tracy's a transfer they brought in from Iowa. He's going to be really nice in the slot. Payne Durham is one of the better tight ends in the Big Ten. He comes back this year. So there's a lot of talent offensively there. And then you look at the schedule. They open up with your Nittany Lions at home. And looking at their schedule, that and at Wisconsin are probably the 2 toughest games of the season. They miss Ohio State. They miss Michigan. If they win that game at home against Penn State, and that's kind of when you want to get a team like that, like Penn State, you'd like to open up with them at home under the lights. That's a tough atmosphere with an offense that can score like yours can. Penn State's offense struggles to score a little bit. I think their passing attack might fail to keep up with Purdue's if Purdue gets hot early. You're looking at a schedule at home against Penn State, then Indiana State, at Syracuse, Florida Atlantic. Like, there's a very realistic chance that team could be 4-0 at the end of September, probably at worst 3-1. I don't think they lose at Syracuse, but I think that team is probably 4-0. Then they go to Minnesota, they go to Maryland. Like that's a 2-game stretch they could split. They close out the season at home or at Illinois, at home against Northwestern, at Indiana. Like, they probably win 2 of 3, if not 3 of 3 there. It's not really hard to see Purdue ending this season with 8 to 9 wins. And contending for that division title. So at plus 140 for that over 7.5 for a team that you could realistically see starting out a season 4-0, 5-0. I really like that over 7.5. With all that returning talent offensively, with the 8 starters coming back defensively, you just need to see some marginal improvement there. You need Aiden O'Connell to stay healthy. And if you get that, I really don't have a hard time seeing this team being an 8 or 9 win team.
Get the Boilers going, or the
Boiler up. Let's go.
Boilers going.
They don't play the Irish this year, so I can be a Purdue fan.
What do you make a boiler with? Anyway, we'll get it started. We'll get it going. All the Boilers.
I like Dan's prop, actually. If I like him that much to sprinkle him at plus 600 to win the West, I like that. I do think there's a chance. They play. They're at home against Nebraska, at Wisconsin. If they go 1-1 in that stretch, I really think they're they're going to be in the conversation to win the West at the end of the year. I'm not sure they're going to do it because Wisconsin is always going to be consistent. I think Nebraska is going to be better this year, but like they're going to be in that conversation. That's all you can really ask for. And I think the offense is going to put them in a chance where they're playing with something to prove the last couple weeks of the year.
I can dig it. So, a little baseball, a little college football, a little bit of tennis, all good things. That
What
wraps
a
it up
day.
for us today. Give us a like, give us a subscription, all that good stuff, some nice comments, and hop on over to the BetSperts Golf Stream where you can hear what the boys are talking about today, and you can still take chance. I mean, there's only a few more events, but the rest of the year for just $1 at BetSperts
Those
Golf.
guys are
What a bit of
crushing
fun.
it, by the way. They're every week it's a new winner. They're doing really well over there. I wish I was actually betting it every week and remembering to get my bets in because I keep forgetting.
Well, hopefully you can be smarter than Matthew Rooney and take advantage of that. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.